In this video, I wanted to show you how I would block out something that is already defined with pencil. I'm still going to use my flat wash brush, but I will stay a little bit more controlled as I'm applying the paint because I've already said where things are going to go. I'm going to use my brush to cut in along the edges of things. Okay, and this is where that color study, the relativity and the color inventory, that's where the skills you learned there are really going to come in handy with your brush handling, figuring out how to come in the edges of things quickly and how to block them in. So this big brush has a lot of versatility, right? I can hold it on its side like this to cut a nice line. I can hold it flat to get larger coverage. When you're blocking out in this manner, you're just slowing down a little bit, not a lot, just a little. So you're still going to your paint and you're dipping in from the edge just to get a little bit of color on there. And you're still painting until the color falls off of your brush. But like I said before, you're just a little bit more controlled. And you're just getting paint bit by bit. And you're painting until it just falls off of your brush. You don't want any big globs of paint. So if you've got a big glob, smooth it out and get less paint next time, because essentially in just a few strokes, you want that color to just be off of your brush and onto the surface. When you're blocking out, all you're doing is saying, okay, this is the base color, the dominant color. This is where this object is going to live. And by seeing all of these different colors together, you can then respond and make changes as you build up your painting. Okay, so I'm using mostly cool colors here in my plant, but even though they're all, green, I can come in with a little bit of magenta to create some shadows, just sort of block in a little bit of gradation in my color as I'm moving along. You're not rinsing your brush when you're blocking, okay? Because when you rinse, as I said in the other video, you're switching modes of your brain. You're going from creating into correcting. So that's why you're only getting little bits of paint. You're brushing until that color comes off. And that's what's going to allow you to switch gears and switch colors without muddying up the scheme too much. Okay, and as you're blocking, do think about how you can neutralize color or how you can lighten color. Lighten color by adding a little bit of white. Neutralize color by mixing in a little bit of the color's complement. Brighten color by adding a little bit of yellow. When you're switching colors, you can brush out a little bit on your little piece of paper or your paper towel, and then just switch gears. That's why we're brushing into the sides of your piles of paint, so that you're able to just pick up color and move on without having to rinse your brush. Okay, so I'm switching to brown, and even though some of the green is still showing up, I'm gonna mix some magenta in there to neutralize that. The green's showing up, but that's okay, because again, this is just the foundation. This is the base. And you're going to keep building up on top of this. So any undesired colors that are in your base coat, just know that you'll just keep building on top of those as you go. As you can see here, what's happening with my little fish, and this is why don't get too attached to your drawing on canvas. When I'm adding the white to cover up some of the pencil lines, I'm losing some of the fish. Okay, so I'll bring him back with a little bit of white highlights in places, darken, with a little bit of brown. I'm still staying within the confines that I sketched for myself, but I'm not worried about the detail. That's also why you're using this big brush, so that it forces you away from the detail. Okay, so you'll continue to block out the same way that we blocked out with the previous example, but you can already see how sort of loose and squishy this one is compared to this that started out with my pencil drawing. Both valid and great ways to get the image on the surface. So decide what works best for you. I find that when I'm blocking out in a painting that started out as a drawing, it does take me a little bit longer, just because I'm trying to control the brush just a little bit more as I'm applying the paint. Something else I want to show you, even if I just come in here and scrub yellow all over, I can still see through to my pencil lines. So unless you're adding white to the paint or going over this with like a blue, which is going to totally obscure everything, you will still be able to see your pencil lines. They won't disappear completely unless you're using white and building white up, because white just sort of, it's just like using white out. Okay, so experiment with different ways of holding this flat wash brush so you can control it a little bit more, and block out until you've got base colors in all parts of your composition. So my last step is going to be to fill in the background, to block it out. And I just wanted you to see here in the foreground, I had drawn some of that daisy pattern, and you can still see it showing through my orange paint. I just decided to put a flat coat over top of that. In my next step, that's when I would come back over and start to re-reveal some of that pattern with a little bit of value and my smaller brush. So from the orange is analogous to the color I want to put in the background, which is just going to be this real airy pink color. And if you have a large area that you want to be a certain color, you can work flat and just squirt paint directly on the surface, but just be mindful that you're smoothing out any of those globs of paint. Okay, because you do not want any thick globs of paint in the beginning. So big sweeping motions, sweep it around and smooth it down. Okay, and if you need to, you can use a little bit of water to help your paint move. And I'm just cutting in around the plant life. And you can use this to help like reinforce some of your shapes if they got away from you in the initial stages, and make things look just a little bit more crisp, but still staying loose. Okay. All right, and that's it. My image is now blocked out, and I can move on to the fun part, which is revealing the detail and starting to get more into specific color mixing. Still mixing on the surface, but being a little bit more slow and methodical with what I'm doing. So the blocking, remember, I'm going to say it one last time. This is just a way for you to begin your painting so that you have color to respond to, and so that you can see right from the start what's going to work, what's not, and you can respond to that and change it. The color is just suggesting where these things are going to live. How much space are they going to take up?